Hello and welcome back to the channel. So I just want to say thanks to all my new subscribers and everybody who's been sharing my channel around. It's really helping me grow my channel and it's really appreciated. And as you know, I will be doing a giveaway when I hit 10,000 subscribers. So your efforts are really helping me. Thank you very much. So anyway, on to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about my thoughts on the Series X and Series S, and I've also talked directly again to my developer friend who also works at EA to get some understanding from his perspective too, and I'm just going to be reporting back here what he has said and some of my thoughts on the matter as well. So those of you that don't know, the Series S has been shown off and the specs have been shown off and this and the other. Basically it's a much weaker all digital version of the Series X in a smaller white ugly looking box. I know some people might like it, I don't, it's just my preference. Anyway, it's basically an all digital weaker system. Some of the things that are obvious to most people, you know, resolution, different things like that, you know, you can read those yourself. I'm not going to be talking about those here per se. This is more about the machine from a developer's perspective. So on paper everything looks pretty much fine. However, me and my friend from EA both agree that there's pretty much two issues with this machine. Basically the amount of RAM, the decrease in speed is astronomically different. Basically it's just a lot slower and it's the biggest bottleneck in development on this machine. It's almost like a midway point between an Xbox One console and a Series X console. And when it comes to development, it's quite a pain when you've nerfed the memory so much down like that. The whole generation is going to feel that if they keep this Series S around for the whole 7 years, say for the generation, it's going to feel like the whole entire generation is cross-gen games for people. And basically you're constraining the whole generation because of this machine. Now that slower RAM is quite significantly slower when it comes to shifting assets around and being able to manipulate things on the fly, and that side of things is significantly different and is a massive pain in the industry, for myself and for my friend from EA. It definitely doesn't have the, if they'd have just left the RAM smaller at 10 gig and left the RAM speed the same, it would have possibly been a hell of a lot better, but at the moment, no. So one of the biggest issues you have to work with is basically you got to work with this being the lower spec, and then you can scale up bits and pieces like for other machines for the Xbox Series X. So you know, things scale perfectly fine most of the time. However, you could find that if you were solely focusing on, say, the Series X machine, you would have quite a bit more freedom than if you had to adhere to the Series S as well as the X all the time. And that slower RAM, it causes a lot of interference in game design. It's all well and good saying you can up the resolution and you can scale assets. That's all well and good, but you're limiting game design via the machine. And so I also have had reports back to me that certain physics models don't work as well on the Series S as they do on the PlayStation 5, as opposed to just say the Series X as well. So you're basically nerfing and pulling back some parts of code which need to live and run in certain areas like the CPU. So that's a bit of an issue. Like physics code in like destruction areas and things like that. So you could even possibly find that the Series S is holding back PlayStation 5 games that are like cross-platform games, and it just, yeah, it's a bit of a bugbear. It is a bottleneck. It really is a bottleneck. But the top and bottom of it is to the end consumer, the game will just play like the game does. You'll get, slower frame rate, well, better frame rate or whatever, and it'll be at 1080p or 1440p or whatever. But what you won't be seeing is the fact that the actual fundamentals of game design and mechanics can't be achieved on that machine because of the limitations of having to adhere to the Series S machine, and that will hold back Series X games as well as cross-platform games on the PS5, which leads me to my other point. I mean, on this machine, you've got the you've got your SSD and this, and like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, for instance, on average, when jumping through rifts, the SSD is transferring anything between 3 gig to 4.2 gigabytes a second on the fly, like that, straight through, jumping through different areas in less than a second. And this simply isn't achievable on Series S or X with the slower SSD speed. For instance, Ratchet and Clank was on the PS4 as a Rift Apart was on the PS4 as well as 5. It just wouldn't work. They wouldn't be able to do it. It limits the game design for that game. So if you put that thought into a AAA games developer company like my friend who's working at EA, and they're having to support the Series S and X as well as the PS5, it's basically limiting creativity on game design. It's all well and good saying you can, on one it's 1440p and on the other one it's 4K. That's nothing to really do with it. It's more to do with the fact that you're holding back creativity via not giving the developer the tools to be able to do so. And it limits game design almost back to how it was on last gen, because when you put slower things in there that hold loading back, you need to then create things to trick people into thinking it's all fine, and it's not. And they're not going to do tricks and things and pieces on the S and Series X and then redesign and recreate chunks of things and remove them all for the PS5. They're just going to still be there. So and that's why the PlayStation 5 has a lot more creative freedom with game design, and you'll see that the creativity that game designers have has a lot, well, basically no limits to the design of gaming on the PS5. You may even see a lot of third parties choose to make exclusive PlayStation 5 games and not cross-platform games between the Series X and the Series S and the PlayStation 5. I don't think that would have been too much of a problem if the Series S didn't exist. I think you're more likely to have seen, not it being an issue, but the SSD is still a bugbear on the Series X, so it could have been a problem. But then that RAM on the Series S is definitely an issue. It is holding back the limitations of game design, full stop. And it's a lot of difference. It stands to reason also that this machine, this Series S, isn't as powerful as it could be, because the machine can't do Xbox One X enhanced games. You're getting the Xbox One S version, so it's already a lesser powered machine because it's not managing to do what the Xbox One X can do. So the whole entire generation for Xbox games and third-party cross-platform games has basically just been held back 7 years, if this generation lasts 7 years. And that's not just myself saying that is directly coming from my friend at EA, it was briefly mentioned from my dev friend who works at Activision, and there's been a plethora of other developers all over the internet speaking out to the fact that the Series S, though, doesn't necessarily hold back the games in the same way as other people are thinking, because it holds back creativity and game design. That's one thing, and it also ends up costing companies much more to develop games, because you've got to adhere to Series S, Series X, PS5, probably loads of PC configs, and like even if it's just a console game, you've got 3 now to adhere to, and that's why you normally see like cross-gen platform games. So on the Xbox One and the PS4, you generally see those games are pretty much very similar, just upping graphics slightly. You don't really see a difference in game design, which is why the PlayStation 5 having exclusive games is good, because they don't have to adhere to the old game design thought process. They're now less limited. And the fact that the Series S is going to be around for the whole entire generation just it's already leading to trouble already without, and we ain't even out yet. So, and it just creates so much more work for development companies, and like you find that you'll find that you're going to get so many more advanced games on the PlayStation 5 that are exclusive to it than you do cross-platform or Xbox Series X or Xbox Series S and X games by design, because you've got this console which is holding back the industry. So yeah, I mean, that's that. And it's like I say, most people, to the normal gamer, are not going to they're not going to really think about it, because they're going to be like, oh, it's 1440p, it's the same game, lower resolution, frame rate's okay at 120, it's fine, it's playing it the same way. And that's right, it is right. You are going to be getting Call of Duty whatever in 2023 on both machines, but what you're not seeing is the lack of differences in if they were just concentrating on the Series X only, because they've got to put it on the S only, and the S as well, and it causes that type of difficulty in development and creativity, and you're putting a bar on what you can and can't do, basically. And the top and bottom of it is then you have to also employ more developers, you have to employ more QA engineers and testers and bug fixers, and you'll have to have more patches all the time, and the game will possibly end up being bigger, or there's all these different other areas that get affected where when you're adhering to, say, 2 platforms, even Series S and Series X, or just the PS5, because you've got 2 things you got to do all the time. When you do QA and you're checking a chunk of code, you've got to check it on that config and that config. You've got to report back to the guy, it's not working on one, but it is fine on the other. And then the dev's like, right, well, I'll fix that. It all takes extra time and extra money and extra effort. And yeah, the long and short of it to the end customer is, oh, it's running 1440p here and it's 4K there. But then people don't want to pay $10 more for their game. Well, development costs just went higher because we're now adhering to another platform. You might as well just call it, a Sega console, because it is a different platform, And I mean, that's the top and bottom of it. Yeah, to the end user, generally you're not going to realise, and these great advances in game design that you're going to be getting on the PlayStation 5, it's really good for the industry, and it helps progression and innovation of gaming and game design, but you're not going to get that much on AAA games, and you're definitely not going to be getting it from Microsoft games, and generally to the end consumer they're not going to really realise, because what they haven't seen yet or played yet, they're not going to miss, are they? But for me, it is about innovation, and it is about gaming as a whole. And to me, the Series S is holding back talent in the industry and themselves, really, if they'd have just kept it as the Series X. So anyway, that's going to do it for the video today. Thanks for listening to me ramble on. As I said, it's great if you managed to get this far in the video, and if you're new around here, please drop me a subscribe, drop me a like, and some comments down below by all means. And likewise, if you're sharing my content around, I'm very grateful. And when I get to 10,000 subscribers, I'll be doing a giveaway. Depending on when that is, if it's near when the PS5 launches, it could be a game, but who knows? I mean, really don't know. But it's nice to have everybody here, and I hope everybody has a good weekend. Thank you very much, and goodbye.